Hey guys, Toby Mathis here, and today we're going to be talking about business credit, how you can establish it, what it is, how you get benefit out of it. And I'm just going to break it down real simply so that you can actually put it into action and start getting some benefits from whatever type of business you're operating in right away. Number one, I'm just going to get this out of the way. If you are operating as a sole proprietor, there's no such thing as business credit. You can have credit that is also has your business name on it, but you and your business are one and the same. There's no difference between you and the business. In order to establish true business credit, you're going to have to establish an artificial person in the form of an LLC, a corporation, some sort of statutory entity that can then start to bank and get its own experience. This is really kind of critical because we're going to keep coming back to that term experience and credibility and what a bank wants to see, because that's ultimately where you're going to go get the funds. So they're going to be going to business credit cards, you're going to be going to asset lenders, you're going to be going to your community banks, you're going to be going to your larger national banks, and sometimes you're going to be looking for loans, and you need to know what they're going to be looking at. So the most simple way to think of these things is that you're going to need to have one of the three C's whenever you start looking for credit. And the three C's, quite simply, first one is cash. And just to make it very, very, really simple, is if you have cash in your account, rather than just funding a business, and that's all you do, you might want to take this cash and use it to purchase, like put it into a CD, and use that CD as collateral against a line of credit. And the reason being is because it's going to help you build experience. So there, kind of two ways to fund the business is either I put the money in or I'm going to borrow it. And if I can't borrow because I don't have enough experience, then I may as well go ahead and throw the cash into the business and use it to start generating its own experience. If I have a complete cash secured loan, pretty easy to get. Like, they're not turned down because you have the cash sitting in there. It's like they know they're going to get paid back, but they can see how you use that credit. So if it's a line of credit, or if it's a cash secured credit card, an institution can see how you use that money and how you pay it back. So that's number one, is cash. Collateral is the second. Collateral just means anything of value that I can use to pledge so that the institution feels good about giving me money. So for example, in real estate, it's real simple. There's a piece of real estate there. I can secure it. In business, I might put a UCC1 on something. Maybe I have a food truck and I could slap a lien against it so that the lender knows, hey, if you don't pay me back, at least I can go foreclose on this property and get paid back that way. And they're just using it to make sure that they have security. But the Holy Grail really comes down to not needing either one of these two things, that you want to be able to get loans just because you have experience. So we have cash, collateral, and credibility. And what credibility comes down to is really how an institution looks at your business and sees how old is it. Like, for example, if you want to have credibility for your business, it's going to be older, more than likely. It's going to be more than 2 years old, right? So if you want to get away from having to put collateral up, it's going to, the business can stand on its 2 feet and get its own credit. It's going to take a little while. If you just set it up, you're going to have to take steps to establish its credibility. What if the business is brand new before 2 years and they look at it, they say there's no cash and there's no collateral? Well, they can actually borrow your credibility, your personal credibility. And what you're doing there is you're saying, hey, I'll sign on the loan. Quite often we see this in credit cards where you'll get one that's a business credit card. You're on the hook for it, right? And or sometimes they'll make it be a personal credit card for a period of time to make sure you pay things back, and then it'll roll over into a business credit card. So that credibility cannot be understated or overstated. There we go. It can be understated, but not overstated, right? You need to have that credibility if you are going to have long-term success, separating the business from you. So if you're standing here and you want your business to be separate, we need to make sure that we are showing the separateness and respecting the separateness. The easiest way to do that, number one, is to set up like an LLC or an Inc., something that's going to separate it out so that you're looking at it going, all right, this is not that person. A typical person is just going to set up a sole proprietor. And like I said, that does not count. That's never going to establish the type of business credit you need. It's just going to run into issues. The other portion of this that a lot of people forget is that if you want to separate this from this, if you don't want them to look, you want to create a line there and say, here's the business, is you really need to have a different address. A business address is absolutely critical, and it has to be a commercial business address. You can't just put your house on like the business address for the business. If you're going to use an articles of incorporation, or if you're using an incorporation company, make sure you have a registered agent. Make sure you have a separate business address, because that credibility is kind of like, again, let's use our analogy of the kids are living at home. So the teenager wants to establish their own credit, and mom and dad have them living at home. It's going to be a tough sell. They have their own apartment. They have their own utilities. Somebody can see, oh, this person can handle debt responsibly. They pay their bills. They start increasing that experience, and boom, it goes up. Another factor, and this sounds odd, but you really do want to have a phone with a 411 listing. Oops. You want to have a phone that has a 411 listing, which means I want to have a phone that's listed as a business. If you want to establish separate credibility, you need to have, really, I would have both. At a minimum, I'd have that address and make sure. And where I see the vast majority, I've been doing this for 20-something years, we have a full funding department. Where people screw up the most is they try to cut corners on these. Probably 70 to 80% of the applications we've seen fail is because they go to the U.S. Postal Service, they check, and they see an address popping up as residential. Hey, but I live at home. Okay, make sure that you have a business address. But then I have to pay for a business address. Yes, if you want to start acting and get the credibility of a business, you're going to have to do that. And the benefit should obviously outweigh those expenses. So you want to make sure you're using a company. Again, I use Alliance. I've known those guys for years. I'll put a link in it directly to them. They have programs that are just for just about every type of need. If you just need something to walk into or use just as the address, they have that. If you need a location where you meet clients, they have that too. If you're a real estate agent and you need to meet with your team and maybe you got 20 people that you got to meet it with at any particular time, they have that too. So you can go directly through there. I'll put the link in there, make it really easy. I've used them all. I just happen to find that Alliance is the easiest and the most economic, and they do what they say they're going to do. The other aspect is I'm sure that you could also use a business phone if you want to. They have different types of business phones nowadays with the way the internet is you could actually have electronic. That is a phone number that is going to go to your cell. I would never list your cell number, but if you possibly could use a business address, that way you do it. Or you just get, if you want to have somebody answering your phone, you just use one of the receptionist services. Again, they're not expensive. They're very effective. And if somebody calls your phone and you get somebody answering it every time, that's actually a good thing when you're a business, right? Banks do not like it when it goes right into a voicemail of a cell phone. Not pleasant, right? They want to make sure that you are a business and that you're operating like a business. You're not operating like a shoestring business, because they're not going to fund that. They will fund somebody that has assets and collateral, cash, or they've established the credibility. Now, if you're going to do the credibility, make sure that you're listed with the business credit bureaus. You're looking at Experian. You're looking at Dun & Bradstreet. You're looking at Equifax. You're not doing this as a person. You're doing this as a business. It's a different scoring criteria. They score completely different. And the vast majority of businesses don't even report to the business credit bureaus. So you have to do it very intentionally so that you're doing business with a few places. Like, for example, you might be able to go in there and get a line of credit with Home Depot or Staples or Dell or one of these places that's going to report to Dun & Bradstreet, so that you can use it and immediately pay it off and boost your score really high, so that when somebody looks at you, they're checking off the boxes and says, that company is creditworthy, and we're going to start extending different things to them. Don't expect it all to happen at once. Usually there's going to be a warm-up period. Again, they're looking at that experience. They want to see how you handle what they give you in the beginning. And if you handle that well, they'll entrust you with more. So if you handle the debt that you have in your business, you're not going crazy, you're not late paying, you're not overdrawing, and you're just constantly using it responsibly, they like that and they reward that. And that comes down to that third, credibility. Again, if you want to establish credit for your business by itself, these are the steps you have to go through in order to get it. It's cash, collateral, credibility. If you don't have the first two, you really got to focus in on that third one, and it's going to take a little while. I would say it's about 1.5 to 2 year stretch where you're going to have to very deliberately establish your business credit. I'm not saying that you're not going to get anything for 1.5 to 2 years, but the doors really start to open the farther you get to that 2 year mark. After that 2 year mark, that's usually the threshold that most institutions want to see. When they say you've been in business for 2 years, you're doing good, fantastic. We feel more comfortable, and we're much more apt to start loosening it up and not requiring collateral requirements or co-signing and things like that. They usually want to have some involvement with you, even when they first start out. Don't fret with that. Just know you're doing a process, and until they know this thing can stand on its own two legs, they might be looking at you saying, "Hey, we want to make sure that at least you're on the hook." Now, here's the trick: that type of lending does not show up on your personal credit. If you do it right, you can ask them directly, "Are you reporting this to TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax on the individual side as opposed to the business side?" They'll tell you. A lot of times it's not. Like, for example, American Express, I still may be a guarantor and I still may be on the hook for it, but it's not reporting to my credit. And that's really, really important, especially for like home mortgages and things like that. You don't want to have a whole bunch of business debt showing up on your personal. They may say, "Whoa, you have way too much debt. We're never going to approve you." And this is how you do it. You get it and you start. Sometimes it's a guarantor, non-reporting, fantastic. You work it to where they're looking at the company financials and eventually they remove you as a guarantor. Happens all the time. So it's just a process you have to go through. And if you do it deliberately, you'll have great success. All right, so I left you guys a couple of links. Go to check out Alliance. They're fantastic. Know the owners. Great people. Frank, I've known for years. Go feel very confident checking them out. If you like this type of information, please subscribe. Please like the video. If you want me to hit other topics, by all means, put them down in the comment.